Single mother takes her daughter to work. You won't believe what the millionaire CEO discovered. Emily stared at her phone with disbelief as the sunlight streamed through their small kitchen window. The babysitter had cancelled, leaving her in a bind. She had a full shift at the hospital in less than an hour and no time to find a replacement. With a sigh, she glanced at her 8-year-old daughter, Mia, coloring at the kitchen table. Emily's heart twisted. How could she take Mia to work? Yet, the thought of leaving her alone, even for a few hours, was unbearable. "Looks like you're coming with me, kiddo," she said, forcing a smile as Mia's eyes lit up with excitement. The hospital felt like a battleground, charged with tension. Patients lined the waiting room, and Emily knew she needed to be on her A-game. But how could she juggle her responsibilities as a caregiver while keeping a watchful eye on Mia, whose vibrant spirit seemed determined to explore every corner of the chaotic environment? The thin walls of her mind echoed with 1,000 worries. Would she be able to focus? Would someone see Mia and judge her for having to bring her along? "Mom, can we go see the heart monitors?" Mia's voice broke through Emily's racing thoughts. "I want to see how the doctors make people better." Emily hesitated, torn between her professional obligations and the desire to shield her daughter from the harsh realities of their life. Before she could answer, Mia darted off, giggling as she skipped ahead. Panic surged through Emily. "Wait!" she called, wrestling against the crush of her maternal instincts. Just as she caught up with Mia, they stumbled into a meeting room, where David, the dynamic CEO of the healthcare company, stood, his brow furrowed in thought. Emily felt an uneasy shift within her. Would he be sympathetic or dismissive? Would she be seen as just a struggling single mother? But before she could turn back, Mia approached David with her innocent curiosity. "Why do you look sad? Do you need a hug?" Time froze. David's rugged exterior softened as he looked down at Mia, suddenly stripped of his corporate armor. Emily could see the moment he looked through Mia's innocent eyes, and for a heartbeat, the world paused, his vulnerability juxtaposed against her fierce determination. She was juggling her daughter's light-hearted spirit with the weight of the day's impending chaos. Emily's internal struggle intensified as David, captivated by Mia's charm, began to see the flaws in the system he had built. Yet, she feared that a single spark of hope wouldn't be enough to ignite change. What if her dreams for her daughter and for her patients collided, resulting in heartbreak rather than healing? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the call for emergency assistance reverberated through the hallway, confusion swelled in the air. Feet pounded down the corridor, patients cried out, and Emily felt the cold grip of fear wrap around her heart. An accident had struck the community, and she was being pulled into the chaos, her daughter's laughter fading behind the urgent cries of the injured. Would she continue to hold on to her integrity in the face of institutional indifference? Could she fulfill her calling while fighting for those who had no voice? Just as Mia's eyes met hers, wide with concern, an announcement crackled through the intercom, sending adrenaline surging within Emily. All at once, she knew she stood at a precipice. The stakes had never felt so high. Would this moment be the turning point that would shape not just her career, but the life she dreamed of for her daughter? As the crisis loomed and tensions escalated, she took a deep breath, bracing herself for the tempest that was about to unfold. Emily's heart raced as she stood frozen in the corridor, the world around her fading into a blur of chaos. Voices clamored from every direction, drawing her back. The emergency announcements echoed in her mind, compelling her to act but unsure where to direct her energy. In that moment, a surge of clarity washed over her. The fear in Mia's eyes rekindled something within Emily, a fierce determination to protect, to heal, and to be a voice for the voiceless. Just as Mia tugged at her sleeve, Emily refocused. "We need to help," she said, refusing to let panic tether her. The flicker of excitement in Mia's gaze spoke volumes, and Emily knew they shared a purpose, even if it was just a small one. With an instinct born from years of experience, she bent down to Mia's level. "Stay close to me, okay? I need you to be my little helper." Mia nodded, a blend of seriousness and enthusiasm painting her face. In that exchange, Emily felt her resolve solidifying, not just as a mother but as a professional committed to her patients. She'd find a way to balance both. As she made her way toward the triage area, Emily navigated through the crowd, taking stock of the situation. The influx of patients was overwhelming, but she could see that there was a method to the madness, and it was one she could engage with. The sight of the doctors already working on patients fueled her drive. She knew she was more than just a caregiver, she was a crucial part of an intricate system. Flashes of her nursing training flooded her thoughts, and she felt her own confidence begin to unfurl. She guided Mia behind a wall where they could observe without interfering. "This is where we help people, Mia," she explained as she pointed vaguely towards the incoming patients. "You'll see how strong and brave these doctors are." Mia's wide-eyed fascination reminded Emily of the reasons she had pursued this path in the first place. With the responsibilities of motherhood and work often weighing down on her, she had nearly forgotten the powerful influence her role could have on others. The juxtaposition of her challenges and her passion reignited a spark in her, a motivation to carve out change. As Emily stepped into her role, she began organizing supplies, reminding others of protocol and checking in on patients waiting to be seen. She was in the thick of it now, and with each task, she felt the creeping shadows of doubt start to recede. The nurse manager, noticing her initiative, beckoned her closer. "Emily, can you help with patient registration? We need someone who can multitask and think on their feet." "Absolutely," she replied, ready to rise to the occasion. Mia stood a few paces back, drawing pictures on a notepad she had grabbed from their home. Watching her daughter immerse herself in creativity amidst the frantic environment brought a sense of calm to Emily's swirling thoughts. Perhaps this experience, however chaotic, could serve as a life lesson for Mia. With each patient that Emily helped, she felt more in control, more competent. Recognition from her colleagues began to solidify her place in the tumultuous environment, and in those fleeting moments, she found assurance in her identity as a healthcare professional. Yet, a nagging thought lingered in the back of her mind: what impact this experience would have on her and Mia's future beyond the present crisis. As the medics wheeled in another casualty, Emily felt the weight of the moment shift. Casualties, however urgent they felt, were merely stories waiting to be told, reflections of the lives interwoven with her own. She was beginning to unravel the depth of her potential, both professionally and as a mother vibrant with possibilities, but as a clamor erupted nearby, Emily's breath quickened once more. Were they prepared for what was coming? This was merely a precursor. The storm was still brewing, and deep down, she sensed that challenges awaited beyond just the flood of patients. Would she and Mia emerge from this stronger together, or would they be swept away by circumstances beyond their control? With her heart pounding, Emily steeled herself for whatever came next. The day was only beginning, and so was her journey of transformation. The chaos intensified as the shift continued, and Emily found herself cycling through tasks and responsibilities like a whirlwind. Each moment seemed to blend into the next, yet each task offered a new opportunity to prove herself. She coordinated with fellow nurses, strategizing efficient routes for patient assessments, all while glancing at Mia, who was now engrossed in her drawings yet occasionally glancing up with wide eyes. Emily's chest swelled with an unfamiliar sense of pride as she responsibly managed patient lists. It was her moment, and she wasn't simply surviving, she was thriving in the chaos. With every registration she processed, every patient she assessed, her lifelong ambition transformed into palpable energy. For the first time in years, her dual role of mother and nurse no longer felt like a burden, but a gateway to personal fulfillment. In the midst of it all, a voice broke through her focus. "Emily." It was Dr. Hughes, the lead surgeon. "We need someone to assist in minor procedures. Are you up for it?" A jolt of adrenaline surged through her. As nursing experiences layered themselves in her memory, she remembered the eagerness of her first rotations, the mixture of fear and excitement that coursed through her veins at the sight of human vulnerability. Could she truly step into that realm again, especially in front of her daughter? Absolutely. Let us do this, she replied, but her heart raced at the thought of stepping outside her comfort zone. Mia trotted behind her, observing this new facet of her mother. Emily knelt down, her maternal instincts momentarily overtaking her professionalism. You'll have to wait here, sweetheart. Mommy's going to do something important, and I need you to be brave for me, okay? Mia nodded, though her expressive gaze implied more curiosity than worry. Emily's resolve wavered again. Was she teaching her daughter bravery or putting her in a position to watch her mother struggle? As Emily walked toward the procedure room, she shook off the doubt. Instead, she focused on her past training. Each step brought her closer to the patient, and with it, the clarity that had pushed her through demanding nights. Inside, she joined a small team of nurses and doctors, ready to delve into real-life medical scenarios. The first patient sat nervously on the examination table, the weight of their injury overshadowed by the sharpness of pain painted across their face. Emily had to act quickly, tapping into her skills and focusing on what mattered most, alleviating suffering. With every question she asked, every comforting word she spoke, Emily began reclaiming her sense of purpose. The patient's eyes softened with trust, a bond forming between them in the asylum's backdrop. She felt the gravity of vulnerability, the delicate nature of life she had always cherished in her practice. Minutes turned to hours, and although physical fatigue began establishing itself in her bones, she reveled in the clarity of her actions. She was facilitating healing, amplifying her skills with every interaction while Mia's presence fueled her nobility. But as the shift approached its crescendo, a new wave of complications arose. Emergency vehicles continued to stream through the sliding doors, delivering new patients, each laden with worry and distress. Emily quickly sensed the shift in atmosphere. The urgency ramped up, and there was no potential wavering. A frantic nurse called across the room, eyes wide, "We need extra hands in the trauma bay." Emily's mind sharpened. This was the moment she had trained for, the moment where doubt must fade into determination, and she had to confront the reality of her choices. Would she step into that room and embrace the critical role she was meant to play, or would she falter now at the precipice of her professional identity? With the echoes of her daughter's quiet support in her mind, she took a deep breath. This was not just about her, it was about proving to herself and her daughter that fear could lead to courage. As she crossed the threshold toward the trauma bay, Emily realized that what lay ahead would either redefine her strength or expose her insecurities. And with that realization, she steeled herself, determined to face whatever challenges awaited. But as she stepped forward, something unexpected caught her eye. A familiar face among the new arrivals, and uncertainty gripped her heart. What had she gotten herself into now? Emily's heart thudded in her chest, holding suspenseful potential as her gaze locked onto the familiar face in a throng of new patients. Across the chaotic room, she recognized Mark, her former supervisor and the one person she thought she'd never see again. His presence threw her mind into disarray. What was he doing here, and why now? As her thoughts raced, Emily felt a sudden rush of determination to prove herself even more. This was a chance not only to showcase her skills but to redefine her professional identity in front of someone who once doubted her. Swallowing her anxiety, she pushed past her swirling thoughts and stepped into the bustling trauma bay. "Emily!" another nurse shouted. "Over here." With practiced speed, she moved toward the commotion. Instincts kicked in as she assessed the situation. A critical patient suffering from blunt trauma lay on the table, surrounded by panic and urgency. "Let us stabilize the patient. I need a line here." The lead physician barked orders. Nervously, Emily grabbed the 4 supplies, every action amplified by Mark's observation. Over the years, she doubted whether her competencies ever measured up to his standards. But as she worked, the flow of adrenaline shifted her mindset from self-consciousness to focus. Each action became a deliberate statement of who she was now. The patient was slipping in and out of consciousness, and Emily forced herself to maintain a calm demeanor. She spoke softly but firmly, reassuring them, "You're safe. We're here to help." Each word fueled her resolve, and as she gazed into the patient's eyes, she recognized a reflection of vulnerability she had once experienced. In the midst of chaos, Emily found clarity. This was her arena, and through the noise, her skills connected her to humanity's core struggles. Minutes passed, her thoughts darting back to Mia. Unsure whether her daughter could comprehend the gravity unfolding before her, Emily stole furtive glances toward the waiting area. There was her little girl, still seated, sketching and absorbed in her world, an image of innocence amidst crisis. "What's the vitals?" she heard someone ask. Another frantic nurse shouted, blood pressure dropping, "We need to act now." Suddenly, Emily's hands moved automatically, her training resurfacing with vivid clarity. Under the intensity, she recalled every lesson learned throughout her career, the countless nights spent immersed in textbooks, simulations, and even mistakes that had taught her resilience. There was a time she would have held back, her fear looming over her. No longer. As she efficiently established in 4-line and mixed medications, she felt herself standing in the intersection of motherhood and professionalism, thriving instead of merely surviving. Her past no longer defined her, it was the actions she took in this moment that truly reflected her transformation. "Great work, Emily," the lead physician acknowledged, saving a moment for praise amidst the frenetic atmosphere. The words made her heart swell, but their depth lay in the validation of her abilities, something she needed more than she anticipated. Yet, amidst the triumph, the arrival of a second trauma patient from a severe car accident reversed her momentary victory into fresh urgency. The chaos persisted, and the pressure mounted, but this time, Emily was prepared. "Get ready for a second intake," she directed the team, feeling a surge of leadership emerge from within. But just as she turned back to the original patient, anxiety swept over her again as Mark stepped closer, stepping into her reality with a presence that held both admiration and skepticism. The moment weighed heavy as he glanced over the tumult, then back at her, his expression hinting at unspoken expectations and a hint of disbelief. Breath caught, Emily faced the culmination of her professional journey, poised on a precipice that could irrevocably change everything. How could she prove she was more than who he once knew? The challenge loomed ahead, and Emily needed to summon every ounce of strength to confront her past, all while managing the present threats before her. Facing Mark and the complications in front of her, she felt the pressure mount. Would she merely react or lead? The distinction hung in the balance as chaos surged and the trauma bay buzzed all around her, amplifying the stakes infinitely higher than she had envisioned. Determined, she met Mark's gaze head-on, preparing for an inevitable confrontation not just with him but with herself. In that instant, the intensity grew, enveloping her resolve in uncertainty. Just as she found her footing, something unexpected echoed through the crowded room, the blaring sound of a new, incoming emergency. What's next? A single mother in a crisis? She mused internally, suddenly feeling the entirety of her identity hanging by a thread. All lights of ambition flickered. But would this be the moment she shattered her limits, or would her fears tether her back? Emily's heart raced anew as the siren's wail reached her ears, instantly diverting her focus. The trauma bay buzzed with the unrelenting clatter of gurneys, and the atmosphere thickened with urgency. She swallowed hard, steeling herself against the rising panic that threatened to choke her resolve. This was no longer just about proving something to Mark, it was about saving lives, including the potential for a family to remain whole. "Stay sharp, team. We have more incoming," Emily barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. The words came out more forcefully than she'd intended, but she embraced the authority they carried. For a fleeting moment, Mark's skeptical gaze sliced through her, but she pushed it aside, focusing instead on the medical staff around her. Each face mirrored her own mixture of determination and fear, a collective energy that fueled her spirit. The new patient arrived swiftly, the team working seamlessly as they prepared for the transfer. Emily shifted her attention to coordinating the resources, the vital signs monitor, for fluids, and medications. This was her domain, and she relished the control. Her confidence surged with every task she tackled, and in that hectic moment, she started to see the beauty of chaos, a rhythmic dance where everyone took part in saving another. "Let us split up," she instructed, guiding a junior nurse to handle prep on the incoming patient while she monitored the original one's progress. It felt exhilarating, the division of labor highlighting her newfound leadership. In her mind, a fire ignited. She wasn't merely a participant, she was a conductor in this orchestra of preservation. As she mixed doses of medication, Emily's thoughts drifted to Mia. A brief picture of her daughter sketching in the waiting area flickered into her mind. Would Mia understand the magnitude of the situation? Did she recognize that her mother was engaged in a battle to transform that randomness of fate into hope? The thought spurred her on. She would show Mia what it meant to stand strong in the face of adversity. "Blood pressure stabilizing," someone announced, eliciting a muted cheer from one of the nurses. Emily let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, but peace was fleeting. The intercom rattled with another emergency notification. A multi-vehicle collision had occurred nearby. Emily's heart dropped, but within this dread, she found her footing again. More lives were at stake, and they needed her. More reinforcements. "We'll need extra hands." She called over to Mark, the urgency of the moment prompting her to connect with him. Despite the apprehension that lingered between them, the professional bond they used to share came rushing back. Mark nodded, understanding the unspoken weight of her request. The fleeting moment silenced their past grievances, leaving room for collaboration. As they raced through the hallways toward the next trauma bay, Emily felt the growing bond of necessity. Each footfall felt like a shared commitment to the work before them. There was something invigorating about the palpable tension, the unyielding hope that each action they took might change outcomes for another family. Once at the new trauma bay, the scene was chaotic. The room echoed with overwhelmed voices and frantic energy as patients were transported and assessed. Emily wasted no time, diving into action mode. She spotted a patient in critical condition who needed immediate attention, but the room pulsed with bodies and noise, causing her focus to splinter. Amidst the frantic energy, she caught a glimpse of Mark assisting with another patient. A shared purpose ignited the air. He glanced her way, a fleeting connection unsettling her inner dialogue. In that instant, a profound realization struck her. If she could face this chaos while embracing her strength and harnessing the support around her, maybe this wasn't just about proving herself to him or anyone else. This was about redefining her role in a world where vulnerability meets resilience. As they worked side by side, Emily's confidence blossomed further. Her hesitations dissolving into the urgency of the moment. She challenged herself to speak up, call the shots, and rally the team. A flicker of gratitude ignited within her. She was no longer the same woman who had once hesitated under Mark's watchful gaze. No, she was here, fully present, a warrior of compassion. But just as Emily began to feel in control, an unexpected deluge flooded into the bay. A new wave of patients, victims panicking and uncertain, flooding her senses like an unrelenting tide. How could this happen all at once? She thought, her heart racing once again as the pressure escalated. The challenge intensified at every turn, and the stakes raised higher. Would she crumble under this unforeseen weight, or rise to meet every rising tide with renewed purpose? The next moment felt pivotal. The very essence of her professional journey hinged on the choices she would make in this storm of chaos. And as she steadied her breath, the next beat of her heart resonated like a call to arms, echoing against the uncertain backdrop of her future. Where would she stand at the precipice of defeat or the summit of her potential? Emily's breath hitched as she surveyed the chaotic room, adrenaline coursing through her. The air was thick with tension, the voices around her a cacophony of urgency and fear. She felt the weight of each life entering the trauma bay like a tangible force, pressing down on her. Could she maintain her composure amidst the chaos that threatened to engulf her? A new patient entered, and Emily's instincts kicked in. She stepped forward, directing the flow of the situation with newfound authority. Get a set of vitals. Start in 4. Each command flowed seamlessly from her mouth, crystallizing her vision of leadership in the midst of frenetic energy. Emily realized she was transforming before her own eyes. She wasn't merely reacting, she was orchestrating maneuvers designed to save lives. Yet, with this exhilaration came doubt, whispering uninvited into her mind. How could she be sure of her decisions amidst such urgent circumstances? Was she truly capable of steering this ship through stormy waters, or would her inexperience reveal cracks in her bold facade? The questions lodged deep, swirling with the urgency of the moment, but she wouldn't permit them to fester. Emily swept her gaze around the room. Nurses were moving with fluid efficiency, their confidence partially stemming from Emily's own newfound determination. Encouraged by their resilience, she felt a flicker of hope, propelling her forward, igniting an ember of inspiration within the ranks. "Team!" she called, her voice piercing through the din. "We need a triage strategy. Mark, can you assess the patients as they come in? I'll manage the critical cases." It felt right. This was where she belonged, in a space where decisions mattered, consequences were immediate, and her contributions could ripple outward, touching countless lives. Mark's eyes met hers once more, no longer filled with skepticism but rather a recognition of her growth. He trusted her to lead, and that acknowledgement fueled her determination further. With a silent nod between them, a shared understanding blossomed, a partnership forged in the crucible of crisis. As Emily shifted her attention back to her patients, her thoughts turned to Mia again. She thought of her daughter's innocent belief in the power of love and strength. Emily could not falter, her child needed to see that strength, needed to know that moments of bravery emerge from the depths of uncertainty. She embraced that image, channeling it into her actions, reaffirming her resolve. With every new patient, the rhythm of chaos shifted, heightened by each life claiming space in the trauma bay. Emily deftly balanced anticipation and reaction. Suddenly, an especially distraught individual arrived, a child whose eyes held the raw edge of fear. Her heart tugged painfully at the sight, a mirror reflecting the vulnerability of countless families in peril. At that moment, Emily confronted a moral dilemma she hadn't anticipated. How could she focus on the demands of the moment while also keeping the humanity of each individual at the forefront of her mind? She understood now that it wasn't only about the clinical successes but about the compassion she exhibited alongside her professional acumen. "Hey there," Emily knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the scared child. "You're going to be okay. We're here to help you." The child's trembling hand reached out to her, and for a heartbeat, her presence became a lifeline for them both. Emily realized this moment represented her growth, a poised blend of medical expertise and human connection. The waves of life crashing around her no longer felt insurmountable. Instead, they became part of a narrative she was writing, a narrative filled with moments of resilience, healing, and perhaps, transformation. Just as she began to embrace that realization, another emergency blared through the speakers, requiring immediate attention. The voice cracked through her newfound resolve like a hammer hitting glass. There was no time to revel in her recent triumphs, the storm was far from over. With the urgency coursing back, Emily braced herself, ready to confront the next wave with renewed vigor. She sensed a critical decision awaited her, one that would not only test her capabilities but also shape her future in this tumultuous field. Would she rise to meet it, or would the weight of responsibility become too heavy to bear? As she took a steadying breath, gearing up for the new challenge ahead, the chaos around her transformed into an anthem of potential. Her potential. The question loomed, ready to shatter her newfound equilibrium: could this crisis redefine who she was meant to be? The siren's call of the new emergency echoed through the walls, a distinct reminder of her precarious position. Emily straightened, the familiar surge of adrenaline hinting at the challenge to come, yet this time, it was layered with a profound sense of clarity. She had faced the unexpected, forged her identity through chaos, and now she stood at the precipice of growth, one that demanded her to be more than just a participant. It called for her to be a decision-maker. As the next patient was wheeled in, a young man who appeared to be in shock. Emily focused, pushing aside any vestiges of doubt. "I need a full assessment. Get a BP and an ECG." Her voice rang out, authoritative, a clear indication that she had not merely inherited a role, she was claiming it. The nurses responded, their movements efficient and purposeful, a testament to how far they had progressed as a unit under her leadership. While the team operated like a well-oiled machine, Emily's attention flickered to the chart in her hand. The young man had suffered significant trauma from a car accident, a story all too common yet horrifying in its brutality. She had faced her share of similar cases before, but now, she felt the weight of this knowledge. How could she balance empathy with the need for swift action? She contemplated his family, his friends, the life he could lead if she made the right decisions. A voice from the back disrupted her thoughts. Mark had taken the initiative, assessing another patient and barking instructions. "Emily. We need more supplies over here." He glanced up, the urgency palpable. His expectation was clear, she was leading. It was both a charge and a burden, but more notably, it was exactly what she desired: to be trusted, to take resolute action. Steeling herself against the heartache of their shared humanity, Emily locked her gaze on the young man. "You're going to feel some pressure as I tend to your wounds. It's going to hurt a bit, but we're here to help you." Although she struggled against the gnawing sensation of vulnerability creeping in, she knew it was essential to demonstrate that depth amid the crisis. She began to assess the injuries, her fingers precise, her mind calculating each step of the procedure. Although she often became lost in the science behind medicine, today felt different. Healing had shifted from just fixing body parts to a quest for restoring lives. Her resolve solidified in small bursts, as she deftly controlled the scene. The controlled chaos around her thrummed with urgency, but she found solace in the knowledge that her leadership served a critical purpose. Yet, as the minutes dragged on, Emily felt an inkling of trepidation. Would she always be able to channel that inner strength, or was this a fleeting moment of clarity destined to be lost? With each second, she felt the weight of her fears as they clawed at the corners of her mind, bringing with them vivid images of failure, a potent reminder that every decision she made had significant consequences. "Emily, we need that X-ray done now." The sudden occlusion of Mark's voice commanded her attention. The tangible reminder of time surged like an electric current. She could feel the stakes rise. In that micro-moment, Emily's thoughts collided with reality. This had become more than a job. It was shaping her resolve to be the dependable pillar her daughter would look up to, the embodiment of strength spun from the fabric of uncertainty. Determination surged within her as she made her next move, instructing the team while stealing glances at the young man, whose eyes were filled with fear yet also a flicker of reliance on her. She felt it, a shared conviction: they were in this together. Suddenly, a second emergency alert reverberated through the hospital, demanding attention. Emily's heart raced yet remained steadfast, recognizing that each challenge further sharpened her skills. Was she ready to embrace the unpredictable nature of this work, to continue growing as both a professional and a mother? As she prepared to pivot yet again, the weight of expectation loomed over her, a challenge to test everything she had become. With a resolve that felt almost tangible, Emily once again stepped into the storm, fully aware that each heartbeat would count. Would this next moment of truth become the crucible for her evolution, or would it reveal the cracks within her foundation? The clang of equipment and the hurried footsteps of the team swallowed Emily's thoughts as she turned sharply toward the second emergency. The rhythmic beeping of monitors wove into her consciousness, blending with the chaos to create a symphony of urgency. Another patient was incoming, and with it, another opportunity to assert her growth. "Clear a path. Let us move," she shouted, instinctively assuming control. She felt the familiar warmth of authority settle in her chest, her pulse quickened, fueling her confidence. She prepared to face whatever awaited her inside the next room. As the gurney rolled past, Emily recognized the face of the new patient, an elderly woman, frail yet resilient, a survivor of a heart attack. The girl behind her, likely a granddaughter, wore a mask of terror. Emily's heart twisted as she considered the stakes. This wasn't just about the mechanics of medicine anymore, it was about lives and legacies. "Get me a set of vitals," she commanded, keeping her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. The tech team rapidly moved forward, retrieving information that she needed to decipher the unfolding crisis. But immediately, doubt crept back in. This time, the pressure felt different. Assisting a young man had been clear-cut. He was young and maybe had a wealth of time ahead. The woman in front of her represented generations of experience, stories, and dreams. Would her choices this time be as decisive, and could she really uphold the sanctity of life? As the monitors hummed with data, Emily's eyes flicked to the granddaughter-s. The girl's gaze lingered on her, filled with expectation. She was a mirror of the hopes hanging in the balance. Realizing this, Emily took a breath, grounding herself. One step at a time, she reminded herself. Let us prepare for an EKG and 4 access. We're going to get you through this, she said to the elderly woman, trying to imbue her voice with the confidence she barely felt. Each word was like a pebble, solidifying gratitude. The woman was trusting her, and there was no room for mistakes. As her team worked in tandem, Emily's mind buzzed with a stream of thoughts. She had always feared failure, but she began to question whether that fear would ever truly dissipate. Perhaps it wasn't about eradicating fear but learning to manage it, to wield it like a tool rather than letting it become an anchor. Emily. We're losing her. Mark's voice shattered her contemplation, sending a jolt through her system. Instinctively, she stepped forward, ready to step into a role she had once shied away from, a true leader in crisis. The room crackled with tension. Emily's heart pounded in her ears as she connected to the rhythm of the moment. With her team surrounding her, she felt the synergy click into place. Each directive she shouted flowed seamlessly, almost instinctively. More adrenaline. Position her for better airflow. I need that defibrillator ready, now. In those critical moments, she understood it wasn't just about diagnosing ailments or treating wounds. It was about embodying strength and clarity amid uncertainty, demonstrating leadership in its rawest form. She began to see the truth of her position. She was not just a medic but a protector, sculpting hope from fear. As the elderly woman stabilized under her care, Emily felt a spark ignite within her. She was evolving, she could feel it in her bones. The weight of previous failures began to lift, replaced by an exhilarating sense of purpose. However, as relief washed over the room, the atmosphere shifted again. Another emergency alert blared, foretelling yet another challenge. Suddenly, the prospect of reigning chaos emerged anew, and behind it came a sense of dread. Could she navigate this incessant turbulence, or would it be the end of her burgeoning strength? The next moment was looming, infused with the potential for triumph or despair. Would the next crescendo of urgency break her stride, or would this be the defining moment she had fought so fiercely to claim? The blaring alarm pierced through the tenuous calm that had settled after the last emergency. Emily's heart raced anew, and she braced herself for the next intrusion of chaos. The clamor reminded her of waves, relentless and powerful, each one pulling her further into the depths of her own resilience. As she moved, urgency crackled in the air, mingling with the sterile scent of antiseptic and sweat. She locked eyes with Mark, who stood with her team, a mix of concern and respect etched across their faces. They were united in a shared purpose, to safeguard lives with whatever was at their disposal. This understanding anchored Emily, casting a light against the shadow of uncertainty. Let us regroup, she instructed, raising her hand to quell the fear that skittered across the room. She caught herself, however, she needed to embody not just authority, but calm. We have a new patient, I want clear roles until we know more. Her voice, resonating with conviction, surprised her. This wasn't the timid medic hesitating on the sidelines, this was a commander ready to lead her troops into battle. As she sprang into action, the details of the incoming emergency flooded her mind, sharpening her senses. She had done this before, she reminded herself. But this time was different. There was a familiarity now, a rhythm to the pressure that she had not acquired in the beginning. Each pulse of adrenaline pulsed in harmony with her newfound determination. Patient details. She called out as the next gurney wheeled in. There was a creature of life that lay before her, middle-aged, sweaty, and panting, gripping his chest, a scene almost too cliché yet still shockingly real. The visual signs. His coding, came a rush of urgency from one of the nurses. Move. Stand clear. With each breath she took, Emily recognized the trepidation lacing her decision-making. This was not just about medical protocols, it was about an individual, someone's brother, father, or friend. Their times were connected in ways she could never measure, and once again, she faced her moral precipice. Could she be the one to tip the scales toward hope? The man fell limp, and time fractured into fleeting moments of panic. Emily's hands moved swiftly, her thoughts racing to command the urgency. They reached for defibrillator paddles, everyone around her instinctively responding to her emotional pulse. She felt the sharpness of clarity slice through her reservations, she could be decisive amidst the chaos. Clear. She commanded, her voice firm and resilient. A jolt surged through the patient, but the monitors didn't respond as they should have. Frustration bubbled along with a creeping fear, it was as if the weight of every doubt she ever held had ganged up on her in this single moment. This man's life depended on her choices, and consequences lurked in every corner, whispering uncertainties. Continue compressions, she urged with intensity, turning her focus inward, probing the depths of her knowledge. She needed more than instinct, she needed the implantation of every lesson learned during her training. We can do this. Let us get him back. As they worked tirelessly in unison, she felt a surge of leadership swell inside her, a feeling that galvanized each person in the room. She seized the moment, not just to do her job but to drive home the understanding that they could overcome. Together, they were capable even if she still wrestled with her deep-seated fears. But then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The monitor blipped. Was it possible? The room fell silent, and she held her breath as they waited, the weight of silence ringing like a bell. The man's heart rate began to stabilize, returning faintly to life's demanding rhythm. A collective sigh escaped the room, reverberating against the sterile walls, yet, just as they began to breathe easier, a new alert echoed, uniquely insistent, indicating yet another emergency just down the hall. Emily's heart clenched, despite her progress, the climb felt endless. Would she again prove brave enough to rise? Or would this relentless cycle of life and death reveal her innermost fears? As the new alarm blared, Emily's jaw tightened. It was time to confront what she had yet to face, the potential collapse of everything she had fought to become. Could she endure the next challenge, or was this the breaking point of her fragile evolution? Emily steadied herself, feeling the electric buzz of urgency wrap around her once more. The alarms and the flurry of activity had become a second nature, yet they also highlighted the stakes, a rhythm pulsating through her career like a heartbeat. Just moments ago, she had felt the hand of fate intervene, saving a life. Now, faced with another challenge, she had no choice but to step forward and assert her growth. The next patient, a young woman with a pronounced anxiety etched onto her face, was wheeled in rapidly. We need immediate assessment. A nurse shouted as they maneuvered the gurney. Emily moved instinctively, scanning the room, ensuring her team was prepared. This was the moment where doubt met opportunity, and she would not let fear paralyze her resolve. Let us focus on her airway first. Emily directed, stepping into the role of a leader without hesitation. She felt the fluidity of her authority morph from hesitant to commanding. Mark, now a silent ally in her newfound confidence, glanced at her with a mixture of recognition and acceptance. His previous skepticism melted away, and there was respect, something she had yearned for. She was no longer just the single mother trying to balance everything, she had transformed into an invaluable asset in a world where lives hung in the balance. Monitor her vitals, and get me some O2. The words flowed from her lips with a conviction that felt profoundly different. Each action was a testament to her dedication to not just save her patients, but also embody the hope she wanted Mia to carry as she grew. As she leaned toward the young woman, Emily felt her pulse pounding deep within her. You're going to be all right, she reassured, warmth replacing the cold sweat of uncertainty on her brow. Emily's hands worked deftly, grounding her with each successful interaction. Just breathe with me, you're safe here. The patient's frantic eyes locked onto Emily's, and for that moment, it felt as though the chaos receded, leaving room for connection and trust. With every successful task, Emily reclaimed a piece of herself, snipping the frayed edges of self-doubt that had once seemed insurmountable. In hours, she had transformed from a frazzled mother whisking her child through a chaotic hospital to a skilled professional combating anxiety and chaos with poise and presence. Still, as the round-the-clock chaos dove deeper into a cycle, a familiar weight threatened to obscure that clarity again. 2 emergencies had already been tackled, yet the urgency signaled there were more hurdles ahead. Emily could feel the rise of familiar fears. They whispered tormenting possibilities. What if she would falter now? Another incoming. A nurse called, pulling her from introspection. The sound of gurneys wheeling in filled her with both excitement and a bubbling dread, yet within her, clarity flourished. She had already stepped through thresholds she once believed insurmountable. There was no turning back now. Mark's voice broke through the noise. Let us keep this momentum, Emily. Each command he gave supported her growth, even as uncertainty danced just out of reach. Taking a deep breath, Emily felt the pulse of the room settle into a steady rhythm. This was the environment where she thrived. She began directing resources toward the new influx of patients, coordinating efforts while keeping the emotional needs of her patients at the forefront. The gurney carried 2 teenagers victims of a bike accident whose energy contrasted starkly with their injuries. Emily's heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her. She felt the momentum of everything she had transformed into charging at full speed. There was clarity in seeing them not just as patients, but as stories awaiting resolution. Let us triage quickly, we need to assess who is critical. She called, her voice commanding. As she stepped into the open space of the treatment area, a potent exhilaration surged through her. Each medical intervention was shaping a tapestry of lives she hoped to mend. Here, she wasn't just standing, she was orchestrating healing while embodying the duality of a mother fighting for her child's future. Hours blurred into moments, and under the weight of sustained intensity, Emily discovered a profound truth. Her journey was not just about healing others, but herself as well. With every successful recovery, her vitality stirred. It was both a privilege and a pact with herself to rise above. Finally, as the wave of new trauma subsided, Emily found herself pausing. The room hummed with the satisfaction of lives being saved, yet the silence echoed a moment of self-acknowledgement. She had conquered her fears and transformed into a leader. Her confidence was now not just born from the chaos of the hospital walls, but from within the recognition that she could balance her responsibilities as a mother and a healthcare professional. In that fleeting moment, she glanced toward a familiar figure across the room. Mia, still sulking on a bench with her notepad, inadvertently watched her mother, an unwavering gaze filled with pride. Emily's heart swelled. She had turned her struggles into unparalleled strength, and Mia was witnessing it all. As the chaos faded into the distance, and the bright lights of the hospital illuminated the courage she had cultivated, Emily accepted that her evolution was still ongoing. Every new challenge was now an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate to Mia that resilience and determination could illuminate even the darkest journeys. With a mix of gratitude and triumph, she realized she had claimed her place not just as a fighter for others, but as an empowered role model thriving in the process. And as she stepped outside for a brief moment of quiet, Emily knew she had achieved more than what life had originally planned for her. She was exactly who she was meant to become. Here, she conspired with newfound ambition not just for herself, but for every life that intersected with hers. So, if you resonated with this journey of transformation, you need to subscribe now to keep up with exclusive personal stories like Emily's. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help the story reach others who can find hope in their own battles, and comment below with your thoughts on how Emily's journey affects you. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Together, let us spread the message of strength, perseverance, and the incredible stories that remind us we can all rise above challenges.